All right, welcome to Mr. Miller's Woodshop podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Miller, and on video again today. So hopefully you get to check that out. It's nothing special to look at except for the amazing mural behind me. I have really learned a lot with this mural process, and our teacher has schooled me up, and we've even got some of the art club kids coming through and helping with it, and so that's kind of neat. So right where I'm pointing here, it's in the top right behind the cardinal's head. That's where the kiddos are working now, and so that's kind of neat. Had that student involvement there a little bit. I mean, we still got the laser level and ladder in here, so they've got more to work on it, and just very grateful that they've done that. But if you're new to the podcast, please make sure to rate, leave a review, make sure to subscribe to all my channels, Mr. Miller's Woodshop. And let's begin. Today we're talking about shop maintenance. So if you are a business person, if you're working in industry, I would say the closest thing I can relate this to is a one-man shop or a business owner who's got to wear a lot of different hats. And so I'm a teacher. I teach woodshop. And if you are a woodshop teacher, you know this well. But there's no one in here coming in and helping you with maintenance, at least that is qualified and good and ready. I've got lots of student helpers, that will, go grab me a 916. Okay, fine. All right, I'll go help you. But no, a lot of it falls on you, and it's the stuff that kind of gets unseen outside of, being in a school. Anybody who's worked in industry probably knows, like, yeah, okay, this equipment requires a lot of maintenance, but that's really not seen a lot in a school, which is really kind of a bummer. So if you're in administration, or if you're big time in a district listening to this, make sure to check in on your shop teachers and see how they're doing. Maybe they can be excused from that PD day. Maybe they can be excused from that assembly. Maybe they can be excused from morning duty because they're doing this stuff. They have to in order for these machines to run. And as a rookie woodworker, one of the first things I wanted to do outside of, a rookie woodshop teacher, I should say, well, the first thing I wanted to do was my mentor to come in, and I was actually replacing him at this school that I taught at. And so it was really cool. I asked him to come in, like, just show me what you got to do to the machines. Okay. Like, what do you do on a regular basis that keeps this place up and running? And so he showed me how to install a brand new bandsaw blade on their gigantic Northfield bandsaw. And he kind of walked me through some of the router table things and some tips and tricks, of course, of, how to do them, but just like when and, where to get this. And thankfully he let me call him whenever stuff did go down. So, for instance, we had two miter saws, and they get abused. They get really beaten on by kids. And the way I run my class, they're used often. And so they're ran about as much as, I'd say, a cabinet shop, working about half days, because we got 4 classes that come through here. They're an hour a day. And I guess you could think about it too in terms of like throughout the year, that only ran maybe half of the year because we got 3 months off for summer. We got spring break, Christmas break. We've got all kinds of holidays. So, I mean, that's a little plug to go into teaching, is just for that kind of thing. But yeah, it's probably about halftime where the machinery is running. And when it is running, it's nonstop. And so we just had some dust collector issues because it has been below zero for highs in Minnesota the last week. And so I recognize, like, the dust collector definitely needs some attention. It's just not drying as it should. But I personally don't want to go out in 20 below and frigid winds and work on this dust collector. I empty it regularly. I don't, and I'm actually very fortunate. Both places I've worked at, the janitorial staff will actually help me unload the dust collectors, and they kind of do it on a regular schedule. And then once it's really picking up those first few weeks into the trimester after safety training, like, we are pushing that thing to its limits, and it is not set up for a wood shop. So I got a dust collector that is, I mean, it works, but I've been told this is like a dust collector you would find for like a dental office, where they just need some draw to help get that crown molding specks of dust off of the person's teeth. And I just, oh, brother, that's what we're running here. We're trying to run 5 CNCs, 3 table saws, 2 miter saws, countless sanders, routers, and it just gets overworked. And so we maintain it as best we can. And spring and summer or spring and fall, it's way easier because it's nice out. Hey, let's go outside and pick a day when it's sunny, and go through and maintain this thing. And we did. We had a tropical heat wave yesterday. It was about 33 degrees when we were outside. And I try to document all this stuff too on my Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube pages. So if you haven't followed those, like seriously, I'm not trying to give a plug. Like you can actually see this. I'm really awkward trying to be a video podcaster. I don't think it adds, but I'm not a podcaster. But podcasters tell me like, oh yeah, you want to have video, and now it's out there, and you can create YouTube shorts. And I'm really not trying to do anything big time there, but like my whole philosophy kind of in teaching and really in life outside the Bible is something just the best like advice my weightlifting teacher gave me in high school was watch what the great ones do and do that. And so I got a podcaster here that does a Timberwolves podcast, and he's like, oh, we got to add video, got to add video. Like it's just me talking, like seriously, just me talking. He's like, oh, it'd be so much better, so much better. Like, okay, we'll see. Try to make sure I comb my hair and put on a nice Safety Speed shirt so that everybody sees that I'm very grateful to Safety Speed for donating their saw this year. Anyway, kind of getting back to the maintenance point, we got the dust collector all tuned up. Like that took an hour of the day, and I'm kind of at the point. I'm 10 years in, but still, for preparing for my classes, I don't prepare outside of my classes, which might sound weird or doesn't make sense or even wrong. But I've kind of found like I teach 4 different preps. So that's 4 different class titles. I teach graphics, cabinetry 1, cabinetry 2, and cabinetry 3 this trimester. And that is a light load. Last spring, I taught 7 preps. I was on an overage. So I taught cabinetry 1, 2, and 3, graphics 1, 2, and 3, and exploring construction. I did not have an off hour the entire hour. And you want to kind of compound that a little bit. That was directly after a paternity leave. And so there was no, hey, check in, how are machines running? How are this going? Like admin like checked in on how the baby was doing. My coworkers are all very loving in that regard, but it was kind of like, hey, welcome back. Go keep doing what you've been doing. And like there's 0 time for prepping and planning. And so I just have decided I'm going to do that during the class that I have the class for. So for instance, we had a bunch of CNC bits break, and I've only had experience in CNC since COVID. So we got our CNC at Cambridge in December of 2019, right before the pandemic. And I had never considered speeds and feeds before that. And still, I've only got really a loose grasp on speeds and feeds. But I had the guy from where we get our bits sharpened come in, and he showed me the equation and showed me how to run it. And I'm trying to think about all these other classes, right? And so I told him, like, dude, this is what we do. Help me figure it out. 1/4 inch end mill, compression bit. Okay, good. I'm sold on that. Okay, it's got to be this long. I need triple flutes. We're milling out rocking chairs out of hardwood, hard oak, mahogany, 8/4. He's like, yep. Okay, you're gonna want this. Here's the, and so he very lovingly brought me through it, and I'm grateful too. He's part of, he's a salesman too, so he wants me to understand what I'm getting. But like, I'm gonna use this. We've got 5 CNCs here. This CNC is gonna be basically nothing but rocking chair legs, and so I kind of stayed. Stick around, heard me out and whatnot, but yeah. So that's just kind of how I kind of run my classes. Is that during cabinetry 2 and 3 is when we do the rocking chair, and when cabinetry 1 comes in the hour after that, like I'm done playing on the CNC. I know we're breaking bits. I was so frustrated. This I think it was Monday. I'm the one running it this time. Okay, do everything we should. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna pretend I'm the student. I'm gonna put his board in there, and we got this jig for the CNC so we can mill out 48-inch legs on a 40-inch bed. It's pretty sweet. ShopSavers actually picked it up, and they showcased it on their social media pages, which is pretty cool. A big time company like that'll do that. But I'm in the seat. I'm running the CNC. Okay, I do everything that I tell kids to do. All right, because I'm in the room, but I give the kids freedom to use the machinery, even the CNCs, and they go through some checkpoints too, and so they don't actually run the thing until I sign off on it on a big cut like this. But here I am in the seat, and I run it. I'm watching it, and it does the same thing. Bit breaks into like 3 different pieces, and I'm just hit the emergency stop. Not my better moments, but I was fuming mad, and I just said, "Darn it!" But I said the other D word, and I had like 3 or 4 kiddos that I've had several times, and they get to know me and my personality and my values and whatnot. So they know like, whoa, he's steamed. And so I apologize. I said, I'm sorry, but I need to take a break right now. And I literally walked out of the room and hit the bathroom quick, and then came back and like, all right, let's try and figure this out. And the kids were like, yeah, we got the bits out. Like, here's the broke into 8 different pieces. We got all the pieces. How do we fix it? I'm like, guys, we can't. We can't fix this bit. $150 is just gone now. And they said like, oh, is that why you were mad? I'm like, partly, it's no money out of my pocket, which is kind of the nice thing about this. It's not like I'm a business owner where it's like that's coming out of the bottom line, but still, on behalf of the taxpayers, like I want to do a good job stewarding what we're given here, which I think we've got a decent budget. And gosh, when that happens, it's just like, oh, brother, okay. Now, that was Monday, same time dust collectors down, same time we've having some other issues with our time saver. And what's really I didn't get my first couple of years is that there'll be a Tuesday and a Wednesday and a Thursday to fix this stuff. And I am not staying late to fix machinery. That's a boundary I've held, and you should too, if you, no matter what industry you're in. Like I get it for business owners, like, no, you got to stay until that thing is fixed. Otherwise you're not making money. But we're not making money. We're cultivating students, building their character, and we're trying to provide them with a skilled trade tool that they can use. So that was, I don't know, it's just justification maybe for not staying late and doing it, but that's what I'm going to do. I got 3 young kids at home, and so I might feel different when they're my age and out of the house. And I talk to them a few times a week, but no, I'm home. I'm dad at 3:00, so I'm done here. So yeah, so let's see. We're snapping bits. And when the next class comes in too, part of the teacher mode, right, is you got to just flush all that. Like, dead goldfish, like our tennis coach says here, like, if you have a bad point in tennis, you just got to flush it. Like the goldfish, you just got to flush it and move on. Like, okay, I don't know how that, how our counselors would think of that, but, that's what I do. And next class comes in, I'm big smile, happy to see you. Some of this is faked, but like, I'm done working on the CNC. We'll look at that again when I get the kids there to help. And, I got to focus now on our time saver, which is broken now. And this kind of happens every time we get about a good month and a half into the trimester where machines start to go down because we're using them. Okay. That's just the state of the reality is we're using them. We're using them as kids. I've taught them how to use the machines safely. So thankfully we haven't any accidents. Okay. We'll shred a belt on our time saver and it'll be this big loud kaboom, and you hear it and you see the shredded belt on the other end, and everyone's eyes are really big, like, oh my God. And we shredded 5 this week. And so each time that almost happened in a different class, each class. And I walk over calmly, and the machine automatically shuts off, which is a really nice safety feature. And I ask, like, okay, is everybody okay? Nobody got hurt? They're like, no, what was that? Oh my gosh, that was so scary. I say, yep, okay, let's open this thing up. Let's try and figure this thing out together. And I've had some kids that are really good with taking machines apart, but for the most part, I try to be the ones because they're kids, right? I don't want them to accidentally pocket a couple bolts that are crucial, and now all of a sudden they're in their laundry machine, and I never see them again. I'll have them like, okay, loosen them up, put them in this cup. I got to go check in on whatever else is going on, and then I'll come back once the plate is off and we can look at the inside of this machine. And we did that 4 times in the past few days, and I think we've got it figured out. When I started here, there was some animosity towards me starting here and changing some things, and so there wasn't a lot of help getting the machinery set up and walked through on how to maintain it. But it's kind of like being a business owner or taking over a shop. Like, you're learning to fly the plane as you're building it, right? It's, or whatever that expression is. And so last year after my paternity leave, we almost had the same issue. And so I went through that progression, shredding belts left and right. And there's so many variables, right? Like up in Minnesota, the humidity is like 20% in the room that I'm in. And I've worked with custodians that's unacceptable. Like our boards are going to crack, our boards are going to split. So you start thinking the variables, maybe that's the sandpaper that's going wrong because that's drying the sandpaper out. Is it not greased well enough? Does that factor into the humidity? Um, just all this stuff. And then, okay, here's another variable for you. Our time saver is from like 93. Works great. It's awesome. It's almost as old as I am. Our high school just north of us and just west of us got a brand new safety speed wide belt sander. And so their time saver belts no longer fit. I'm bummed we didn't get a safety speed sander, but at least I get all their hand-me-down belts. And so I'm going through them and most of them are good. Some of them you pick them up and they split right down the center and you think, okay, what the heck is wrong with this belt? This is a good brand belt and like brand name belt. You would recognize it. And I look at the manufacturing date and I'm like, oh my God, this thing was manufactured in 2003 and there's a shelf life on those belts. And so we're trying to figure out the threshold of what that shelf life is because it's nice to get the hand-me-downs. It's nice to get the stuff that they can't use anymore for free because it doesn't come out of our budget, right? Free stuff is nice. What's frustrating is now, is it the belt? Is it the machine? Okay, I questioned the kids. What was the workload meter like on the time saver when you were running it? Okay, all right. Even the best kid can make a mistake, and so I kind of factor that in. Like, are they telling me the truth? And maybe they tried to just run that thing like a planer and overworked it. Makes sense, right? So working through all that while the class is going on, while kids are building stuff, and I love the QR code method because I can work on that during the hour and they still have access to the demonstration, all the info that they need to build their stuff. They know how to do it safely. It's just a matter of like, okay, where do I put the pocket hole screws in? There's a video for that. How do I cut a pocket hole screw? Oh, there's a video for that. How do I assemble my piece with the pocket hole screws? There's a video for that. Where are the pocket screws? Now I got to go find Miller. Okay. Well, that's just some of the glory here, right? And so, and it's different machines every time, right? And it doesn't seem to be a factor. And like starting out as a new teacher, this kind of frustrated me because I thought like, okay, once you get the machines done, like up and running, like they're good, right? And I had the hardest time with miter saws up at Cambridge, and we had good miter saws, but it was just that, okay, I've used them, I've never had to maintain them kind of thing. And I'd call my friend and walk through like, okay, I replaced brushes. And that was, a great like self-esteem thing. Like I replaced the brushes. I mean, it's the simplest thing you can do to a miter saw, but honestly, we got one miter saw here that needs brushes that I should be ordering right now, but instead I'm talking to you guys. But it's all the brushes. Okay. Maybe a month later, same thing happens. And it's like, okay, it's not the brushes. Now what's going wrong? And I look into the motor, I do all this research, and I'm doing this, on my prep or after school, and when I'm just reading and trying to figure this out. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, I got to bring this into an actual like maintenance department. And this is kind of, bearing my soul for you folks because this was embarrassing. Okay. When I cleaned the brushes out, I figured like, let's just maintain this thing all together. Let's change out the blade. And so I changed the blade out, got it all back working, happy, right? Fix the machine. I can fix anything, holler that across the room once it starts working, and kids start to get a little excited too. Now it's broken again. Take it to the maintenance tech and like put it in the back of my car, drive it down. This is things that, other teachers aren't doing. Sure, you bring your stack of English papers home, but like this dusty old miter saw was in the back of my car, and like it ain't light either. Like this is, driving it down all off hours. And I get there and they say, yep, okay, we'll take a look at it. Ask me what I've tried. And like, all right, good luck. And go back to school. Now we don't have a machine. We're working with one miter saw, praying that it doesn't break. No budget for a new one. And they call me, maybe a couple of days later. They say, yeah, we took a look at it, and your happy to know there's going to be no cost on this. I'm like, oh, thank God. All right. I don't have to. He's like, yeah, it was only a matter of that uh, bolt that holds on the blade that, goes right through the arbor. That was loose. And that's a backwards turning bolt. And so you got the righty loosey, lefty tighty wrong when you put it in last time. Like, oh my God. I'm just so frustrated, embarrassed. And so they're like, yeah, we blew it out real good for you. And so you can come pick it up anytime. We close at 4 o'clock. And it's like, oh, like, I got to like leave school early now to get all the way down to Minneapolis where you are to pick it up. And now there's my prep time. There's my after school time. It's my gas. That's, the humiliation too. Like, oh, you're the woodshop teacher and you couldn't figure out how to change the blade. And that's just so frustrating and embarrassing. And now that's just trying to be on my own, right? I've had an opposite experience here now at Coon Rapids. And this was a couple of years ago. And this is more of the high flyer kid. I had probably just the itch to change the blade, getting dull, saw some tear out on some kid's board. So go to change out the blade, get interrupted, come back to it. Kid asks, hey, what's going on with the saw? There's no blade in it. Like, yep, I'm changing out the blade. He's like, oh, can I help you? And then I said, sure, that's fine. And I get pulled away again in another direction. And all you shop teachers and business owners will understand, like, yeah, you get pulled in. Like, sometimes you don't run the class runs you. You don't run the business runs you. And try to eliminate that as much as I can. Saying no is a powerful thing. But sometimes it's like, time saver just shredded a belt. I have to walk away from this now. Okay, kids are about to fight over there. I have to walk away from this now. Bell rang, and now you have to go down the hall to graphic design. Can't say no to some of this stuff. So, getting back to my story, kid asks to help. I say, sure. I get pulled away, and I come back later, and I see the blade on, and he's putting the tools away. And I said, dude, what? Hey, we went too many steps. Like, what? I only told you to help by blowing it out. He's like, oh, I pulled up this YouTube video. This guy is the same brand. He walked me exactly through it. And I actually took it apart again just to double check that nut was on there backwards, lefty tightened. And yep, it was. Okay, everything was right. Like, he did it perfect because he followed that YouTube video. And that further emboldened me to make him, my own YouTube videos because I saw kids are capable of this. It's a high flyer kid, but that's more so just because he took that initiative to want to help. And, I think his family was in construction too, but he had no prior knowledge. It was just, he used the stuff that he had access to, which is really cool, which I gather you is pretty rare. Now, if you are enjoying this, make sure you send this to someone that, you think would enjoy it, even if it's just a teacher that's like always crying about this stuff. And I truly don't want this to be a poor me episode. Like, oh, I got to go do lunchroom duty and I should be fixing my saw. Like, so what? Like, go do it with a smile, fix it during class. Send this to your buddy who could use it. Now, here's where I think industry comes into play, where they can really help how they're actually doing shop classes in high schools, because you probably have maintenance techs. You probably have people that are slow at times. Like, yeah, they don't got much to do. Now, we have a volunteer here. He's retired, comes in nearly every day, and he loves this stuff. I call him the expert woodworker. He doesn't appreciate that, but he is a great woodworker, and he's awesome on the lathe, loves the bandsaw. And he really compliments me well because I have very little lathe experience. I have bandsaw experience, but I've never taken it apart. Like I talked about before, one of the first things I wanted that teacher to do for me was show me, like, how do you maintain this bandsaw? Like, this thing is huge. It's old. It's going to break if you don't maintain it. So, yep, no problem. I'll show you how to do it. So we had our bandsaw blade actually break. Now it happens. Okay. Student error. Student was okay. Bandsaw blade breaks. I said, like, okay, we can't use the bandsaw today because, and this is just my intro while the kids are sitting down. I'm taking attendance. I'm giving announcements. They usually write down a word of the day while I'm taking all this announcements, and then I turn them loose after 5 minutes or so. Announcements, I said, I got to fix the bandsaw at some point today. So, no bandsaw today. You guys making your face frames, like you don't have to wait. I go help a couple kids. I think it was early on in the trimester too, because I was still with some scared kiddos on the table saw, and so I'm walking them through that. You know, that's where I want to be. It's where I got to be. Machine isn't as important. Those high flyer kids are just going to have to wait that are working ahead already on their face frame. Mr. Kurt, our volunteer, goes through, and I see like the table is taken off of it, the wheel is taken off of it, and I'm like, oh my god, dude, I just wanted you to change the blade. And he's like, oh, I figured, the kids were told they can't use it. I might as well go through and do it right? Like, yeah, because I would have no idea how to even do that stuff. And now we went to almighty YouTube, and I made sure that it was all good to go because he's a volunteer, and ultimately, the buck stops with me. So I want to make sure that everything was assembled correctly, and it was. So I mean, just by him coming in out of the goodness of his heart, like helped kids. And so those of you guys in industry, the call to action is this: see what your local high school woodshop teacher needs. Okay. If someone were to call me and ask me that, I would say, oh, thank God for calling. So I've got this Northfield joiner built in it's original to the building. It was the building was built in '63. I'm told that it was bought used. This jointer that we have, it's awesome. It's Northfield. It's got to be like, I don't even know, 9-10 inches across, and it just hums. It's awesome. Okay. I've never changed out the blades on it. Okay. And we use it pretty regularly. A couple of kids have put some stuff in there with screws in it. And so there's a couple of chips, but I've just moved that fence a little bit. We only use it for edge jointing. So like I've gotten away with just moving that fence a little bit, but I'm kind of running out of room now of like clear blade. And so the guy I replaced said that he did it the year before I started. So I felt good about that. But now I'm at the point where I got to replace it. And he has he doesn't want to help is kind of the nice way of me saying that he doesn't want to help. So if you are a person around me, like that would be something that, if you called and said like, how can I help? And you have expertise. Like I don't want some guy, trying to watch a YouTube video, but if you got some expertise, some guys that are slow, even if it's just dispatch them for an hour and, it's like, oh, wow, your miter's that. Boy, that sure is dusty. Can I clean the blade for you? Okay, that's another thing. Our volunteer came in and said like, oh, you got to keep these blades clean too. And he didn't say it like that. He just encouraged like, would you like me to clean the blades? Like, I didn't know they should be cleaned. And he's like, oh yeah, well, like you gather pitch around here, and it's just a way for us to learn too. And if you're a humble person, you'll take that with a smile. Okay. I'll gladly take that too, because then it's one more thing I don't need to do, and it's something I get to learn too, so I can further put that in. Because now I got students cleaning blades like crazy. Show them how to take the blades off. They'll clean them up, scrub them just like Mr. Kurt showed me, and like that's what this is all about, right? Like trying to make us better. Our skills gap isn't just because we don't have these classes, but we're just not equipping them well either. And so I think this is how we get to be a little bit better, and that's gonna about do it for me today. Thanks for being on video, those that watch through. I mean, I feel crazy just talking to myself in a room all alone by myself. And if you're someone that's just sitting and watching your TV, me talking to you, that's probably a little weird too. I love podcasts. I'm on podcasts, in my ears all the time. Those video podcasters I listen to, make sure to describe what they're seeing. And so if you didn't listen on video, just been my talking head, Cardinal mural behind me, and I'm very grateful. Please make sure you write a review, leave a rating, send it to someone that you care about, and let's do this together. Thank you all. Bye.